What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Titletown Talk. I'm your host, Ian Ewing. Guys, we have a possible Super Bowl preview this week to talk about, or at least that's what you've probably been hearing, or probably will hear as the weekend approaches. I happen to believe the Broncos are not good enough to make it to the Super Bowl, but I might be wrong. Regardless, this game is going to be quite interesting. We're going to talk about it on today's show. Before we get into offense and defense, let's start out with the traditional rankings for the Denver Broncos. Spoiler alert, their defense is really good, and we'll talk about that in detail on this episode. Offensively, they're averaging about 342 yards a game, which is 10th in the NFL. Points per game wise, 23.7, which is 14th. Their rushing offense, 121 per game. That has fallen off quite a bit the last few weeks. We'll get into why. Defensively, though, they are the fourth overall scoring defense in the league, 18.1 points per game. They only allow 89 rushing yards per game, and they're only averaging 282 yards allowed on defense, which is third in the NFL. So, as you guys can see / hear, the tape backs it up too. This is one of the premier defenses in the NFL. They look every bit as good as their ranking. They lead the league in sacks by a wide margin. Just so you guys know, they have like 55 sacks on the season. The next closest team has 41 or something like that. Something just crazy. They also lead the league in pressures, so there's not just those fluky sacks that come from coverage and all that. They get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They have one of the best pass rushes in the entire league. The key storyline with the Broncos, they have not really won a lot of impressive games, and we'll talk about all that in a minute. DVOA-wise, it's a little bit more soothing if you're a Packer fan. Offensively, they're the 14th overall team in DVOA, 17th in passing, 23rd in rushing. The 23rd rushing is interesting because ever since they lost J.K. Dobbins, they really struggled to run the ball, and that backs up on the tape, by the way. Defensively, they're the 5th overall defense in DVOA. Partially, it's not higher because of who they've beaten, and we'll talk about that too in a minute. They're the 4th passing DVOA and the 3rd rushing. So as you can see, defensively, they're among the league's best. Offensively, they're not so good. So this has a chance to be a very ugly game, and just so you know, that's my prediction of how it's going to go. Let's start, though, with the fact that they don't have a lot of impressive wins. And the interesting thing is they've played some pretty bad teams very closely, including 2 games against Vegas. Let's read through all the games really quick. So they start out the season 1-2. They lose to Tennessee, which is wild. The Tennessee Titans beat them in week 1. Now, we do know week 1's a liar. We've heard that before. It wasn't a lie in the Packers' case because they've beaten the Lions twice. They lost to the Colts 29-28, so a 1-point loss there. They lost to the Chargers 23-20, so another close loss there. So they started out the season 1-2, which is crazy. They have not lost since the 21st of September, which is just wild. They lose 2 out of 3 at the beginning of the year. They haven't lost since. After they lose to the Chargers, they beat the Bengals 28-3. That was right after they lost Joe Burrow. They beat the Eagles. At that point, the Eagles are playing pretty good ball, 21-17. But then here's where it starts to get weird. They only beat the Jets 13-11, and that was barely a win, by the way. That was, I think it was an international game, I believe. Then they played the Giants, and if you guys remember that game, they were down big in that game, and they came back in the fourth quarter. They ended up beating the Giants 33-32. Then they put it on Dallas, which was a pretty impressive win in my opinion. Dallas did score 24 against them, but they win the game 44-24. Then it's Houston. They win 18-15, so didn't really score against that defense. Shocker. And then they beat Vegas 10-7, which is a wild game. That was a Thursday night game. That was one of the ugliest games that I've ever seen in my entire career of watching football. And yes, you heard me right, career. It's a career of watching football. Yes, I'm going to double down on that. So again, they beat the Chiefs 22-19. Then they beat the Commanders, and this is the Commanders without Jaden Daniels, by the way, by 1 point. They win 27-26. And then this last week, they narrowly beat the Vegas Raiders 24-17. So again, the reason I went through the schedule is to kind of illustrate. They don't have a lot of impressive wins on their schedule, and they have a lot of close games against bad teams. And again, partially due to their offense not being very good. But again, they're just not a juggernaut, in my opinion. And the AFC, who they've played the majority of their schedule against, is pretty inferior compared to the NFC. So the Packers, in my opinion, are the best team they've played this year so far. So I do think that if the Packers offense can get to 20 in this game, I don't think they'll win, right? They're going to win. but it's also a massive test to show how good this offense really is. So getting to 20, I think, would be a massive celebration for the Packers. Now, if you get to 20 and you lose, that means the defense gave up more than 20 points to a pretty bad offense. But again, you get into the mid to upper 20s, that's going to be really encouraging in terms of how we, the Packer fans and the league, will view the Packers offense. If the Packers go out and play well, even in a losing effort, you're going to be really encouraged. So let's talk about that vaunted Broncos defense, starting with the top 5 graded players from PFF. And I will say PFF doesn't love this defense as much as everybody else does. And they don't even love it as much as the Packers defense, by the way. They're a little bit lower on them than consensus. Their top graded player is Dre Greenlaw, their middle linebacker. He has an 82 grade. They acquired him in the offseason. He used to play for the 49ers. And if you guys remember, he's one of the interceptions that Jordan Love threw in the 2023 playoffs. Then Dre Greenlaw, he tears his Achilles or something like that. He did not play in 2024. So he came back this season with a vengeance. He's playing very, very well. He is probably not the athlete that he was since his injury, but he's really, really smart. He's a really good player. We'll just say that. Jaquan McMillan is their second-rated player, 76 overall. He's their slot cornerback. 71 coverage grade, so he's a pretty good player. Now, he's their highest-graded corner, and the other two guys are much higher name recognition. It's a lot of times because he doesn't get targeted as much. Talanoa Hufanga, their safety. Yes, it's a real name for the newbie football watchers. He's a phenomenal safety. He's played for the 49ers as well. Seems like this team just gutted the 49ers defense from the Super Bowl years. He has a 75 overall grade. He's a really, really good safety. And a lot of the safeties we've talked about, especially in these top 5 lists, they are either good at run defense or coverage. He's good at both. So he's a really, really good player. Justin Strnad, their linebacker, he has a 70 grade. He's number 4 for them. And then their 5th overall player is Pat Surtain Jr., the cornerback. Actually, Pat Surtain the second. He goes by the second. He is the reigning defensive player of the year from 2024. He is a phenomenal player. He's probably a top 5 favorite player in the league for me. He's a phenomenal cornerback. He's as good of a man coverage corner as you'll ever see in the league. In fact, I think he's the best man coverage corner in the league. Phenomenal size. He's not the athlete that you would think he is, but he's still a phenomenal player. He's had a bit of a down year this year. Again, he's got a 69.9 grade. So again, he's very above average, but he's not playing elite like he did last year. And that's due to injury. He's been a bit slower this year on tape due to injury as well. But that's their top 5. Their defensive line is insanely good. And let's talk through it really quick. So they have Nick Bonito, who at one point was leading the league in sacks. I think he has 11 or 12 now. He has 57 pressures on the season, a 78 pass rush grade. He's a really, really good player. He's not someone that you need a game plan around, so he's not a Micah Parsons. He's not even an Aiden Hutchinson, honestly. He's probably a tier below Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons. And the next tier would be Aiden Hutchinson, Nick Bosa, that group. And then I would probably put, Nick Bonito in that category, but he's not somebody that you need a game plan against. However, Nick Bonito on Rasheed Walker is a massive mismatch. On the other side of Bonito, they have Jonathan Cooper. He's their other edge rusher. He's a pretty good player. He does get a little bit more one-on-ones with how good Bonito is. He's only got 42 pressures on the season, though, so he's kind of around that Rashawn Gary production level. So solid, but not a scary player. Speaking of scary player, their defensive tackle, Zach Allen, is insanely scary. They just gave him a big extension last season. He kind of broke out last year. He was an elite pass rusher and a really good run defender. This season, he's not been great against the run, but from a pass rushing standpoint, he's got a 78 grade and 51 pressures. So I believe the last I checked, he's the highest rated interior pass rusher in the league, and it shows up on tape, guys. He's an insanely good player. I would say he's not wrecking the game like he did last season, but him against those, him against Anthony Belton, him against the new center, Sean Ryan, I'm a little concerned there, to say the least. Linebacker-wise, again, they have Dre Greenlaw. They also have Alex Singleton, who I really like. He plays kind of more on the passing downs than Justin Strnad, who I mentioned before. Really good linebacker core. They have good players at every level, guys. That's why this defense is so good. They have really good safety in Hufanga. They got Dre Greenlaw at linebacker. They got a great defensive line. They got really good corners. So, again, a team like the Packers who struggles to run the ball, they stop the run pretty well, as you guys heard in the rankings. I don't think this is going to be a game where the Packers all of a sudden start putting up insane amounts of rushing yards, but I hope I'm wrong. The only thing is with the linebackers, they can be had in coverage a little bit. Their safety, Brandon Jones, aside from Hufanga, he's also someone you can take advantage of. But there just aren't a lot of weaknesses on this team. Their other cornerback, Riley Moss, is a really good player too. Not to bring race into it, but he's a white cornerback that you don't see every day. That's one of those things you don't hear a lot about. Kind of like a white deer, right, or whatever. I'm surprised. Maybe that's more normal than I thought. But again, really, really good player. Riley Moss is impressive as hell. So again, their cornerback trio is really, really strong, and they play a lot of man coverage. And the thing about the Broncos defense that's really, really good is they do not make a lot of mistakes. They don't get a lot of turnovers. We'll talk about that in a minute. But they just don't beat themselves. It's that simple. They tackle well, and they remind me a lot of the Packers when the Packers are on, too. There's 7 guys on every tackle. They don't miss tackles. They don't allow explosives. They're just a really, really good defense. So, again, massive test for your Packers offense this week. Let's get into the keys to beating this offense on offense to beating this defense. Key number 1, continue to beat man coverage. So if you guys haven't noticed, the Packers have dominated the teams that they played the last few weeks in man coverage. The Broncos play the 6th highest rate of man coverage in the league. And again, the Packers have been cooking man coverage this season, especially the last 2 games. The Bears and the Lions have played a lot of man, as did the Vikings. The Vikings obviously not as successfully as they weren't as successful against the Packers the Packers weren't as successful against the Vikings as they were the other 2 teams. But the defenses the Packers have struggled with have been the 2 high shell zone coverage teams. So is there a world where Vance Joseph, the Broncos D coordinator, he might throw that in and change things up? I wouldn't be shocked, but I do think they're going to have a lot of confidence in those corners to play man. And I do think that the Packers receivers will be up to the challenge. I do. It's going to be up to Matt to have a plan for this, though, and Jordan needs to continue to be pinpoint in the way he passes. But the difference between this Broncos team and the teams they've played recently, the Bears and the Lions, the Broncos can get pressure with 4. And they do blitz quite a bit. We'll talk about it in a second, but they're going to have more coverage guys back when they don't than the Bears and Lions did. The Lions and Bears, again, they cannot get pressure with 4. They have a good pass rusher. 1, you can debate whether or not Montez Sweat is great. I think he's bad, or he's very average, I should say. He's not worth the contract. Anyway, key number 2, that brings me to the next one. I'll just jump right into it. Key number 2 is protect Jordan Love. The Broncos blitz 30% of the time, which is in the upper third of the league, 1/3 of the league. I think they're like 12th or so. And they're also super creative. So I don't think they're going to be strictly 4-man pressure. And it's going to be similar. It's going to be a similar playbook to what the Packers have seen the last 3 weeks. So when the Broncos blitz, the offensive line and the running backs need to pick it up. I think that in this game, the Packers are going to try to run the ball early. I hope that they don't force it, which we'll talk about. I think that 6 offensive lineman look with the 3 receivers makes a lot of sense in this game. They use it on 2% of snaps against the Bears, which is interesting. But on those plays, they average 18 yards per play. So I do think that, again, you get Christian Watson or Jaden Reed on one of these linebackers or even the safeties in man coverage, just like they did last week. I think that's a really good way to beat this defense. That being said, they really have to hold up front, and that's going to be the biggest test of the season for them. This is the best pass rush they've seen. I'm excited to see how the offensive line holds up. Again, I thought Anthony Belton played well in this last game. Again, the people who are smarter than me with offensive line have all said it looked like he may have took a step this week. Sean Ryan is playing better center than Elton Jenkins did. So any of you Elton Jenkins truthers out there, he will not be back next season. I can 100% guarantee you that. But again, let's talk about Jordan Love really quick, right? Protect him. You know the stats. When he's kept clean, he has the best EPA per play in the league. And he also is the best EPA per play in the league when blitzed. So the only time he's not good is when they actually get pressure on him. And that's every quarterback, to be fair. But another thing I think they can do in this game, I think they should do, is they should get him on some play-action bootleg stuff. Similar to what the Bears did with Caleb last week. Get him outside the pocket. Make the pocket move. That way these guys like Benito and Cooper and all them, they have to chase Jordan. The other thing you can do with that, obviously it buys time for Jordan, but you can have those second chance routes where the receivers are, maybe they're running a post or whatever, and then Jordan starts to move and they shift directions and run a flag or something like that. And again, I know there's a lot more complicated routes than that, but I'm trying to simplify it for everybody. Point being, I think that they can beat this team if everything goes right. And I think these receivers against man coverage, I think it's scary. I'll just say that. But I do think that LaFleur can be creative enough to make that happen. The other thing they can do is they can put Chris Brooks in, number 30. He's a really good pass protector. If you guys watch some cut-ups of him blocking, he's like another guard out there, which is pretty wild. Okay, key number 3. This is probably the biggest one. Don't make any mistakes. This is not the game to play ugly and dirty. Now, last week against the Bears, that was also the case, and it was the case against the Lions. Last week, they turned the ball over, right? Jordan threw that brutal interception in the first quarter. But, again, I would argue that he didn't really make any other mistakes that entire game. And even on that one, the Packers got one of their own later, so they didn't win the turnover battle, the Bears. And the Packers defense was able to stop the Bears when they did turn it over. So this also can't be a game where, again, Jordan can't make mistakes, right? But this can't be a game where they have a bunch of holding calls and illegal shifts and false starts and whatever else, right? Now, turnovers have been pretty rare, especially in this 4-game win streak. There have been a lot less mental mistakes and penalties as well. That has to continue here. And that's going to make a big difference. This is not the Bears defense. These guys don't turn you over very much. They're just really effective. Similar to how the Packers play, right? The Packers defense, they've been really good this season, but they don't have a lot of turnovers. Similar to the Broncos, right? If you make mistakes against this defense, though, it's going to be that much harder to overcome it. So I think that they're going to make things really difficult on offense, to say the least. Key number 4, strength on strength, converting third downs. So this is probably one of the most interesting matchups nobody else has been talking about. The Packers still have the best third down offense in the NFL. The Broncos have the best third down defense in the NFL. So I do think that this is going to be pretty interesting, right? This might be the key to the game here. How many third downs can the Packers convert against this team who's really good at stopping people on third down? It's going to depend on the offensive line. And it's going to depend on the Packers getting separation in the receivers. I think Dontavian Wicks, again, he played the first quarter of the last game, and then his ankle injury, I think, flared up. I think Dontavian Wicks playing in this game could be a big factor. He's one of the reasons that the Packers were so effective against the Lions in man coverage. Obviously, Christian Watson's going to be a factor, but Wicks was shaking off DBs that entire game. He was getting open regularly. I do think Jaden Reed, they're going to try to scheme him open against man as well, but I think that converting third downs is going to be massively important here. This can't be a Giants game where they drop 3 or 4 third down catches, right? They have to convert their third downs here. And it's strength on strength. This is going to be something interesting to watch. Key number 5, don't force feed the run game. The Denver run defense is really good. They're probably the best the Packers have faced this season. And as you all know, the Packers their run game has been pretty bad. So I do wonder if the Broncos are going to try to game plan against Josh Jacobs in the run game, or if they're going to, watch Jordan's success, the Toyotathon Jordan Love, and say, that's what we need to stop. I think that's probably what they're going to do, right? Whatever they're going to take away, it's up to Green Bay to do the other thing effectively. I still think a good mix of running and throwing is the key here. Mixing in play action, using some of those different formations. I just mentioned the 6-0 lineman look. What I don't want to see is that repeat of where LaFleur was kind of in that slump, right? Where he's just checking a box to run the ball. I can't stress enough how good Jordan Love has been. And their second best player has been Christian Watson. So it's time to build the offense around them. I just think that that's, and again, with the way Christian Watson's been playing and the way Jordan's been playing, why wouldn't you, right? So this isn't a game where, again, you need to try to commit to the run, but if it's not working, don't continue to force it. That's all I'm asking. And then key number 6 is a good one, right? Get the quick passing game going. This pass rush is really good. I've already been over it a couple times. Probably bring it up again for all I know. They're going to get production at some point. They're going to get theirs, to use that quote. Even if the Packers play their best, the Broncos are eventually going to get a sack. They're eventually going to get a pressure. They're too good not to, right? So I do think the quick passing game needs to be a pretty big focal point. Now, I know we look back at that Browns game, guys, and we look at the final score, and rightfully so, right? And even the Panthers game. But there were plays there. If you watch that Browns game, the Browns made it hard on the Packers, but if the Packers score 13 in this game, I think they can win this game. That's how bad the Broncos offense is. Now, do I think that's the case? No. But the quick passing game was working in that Browns game. Now, they just didn't have a lot of horses. They didn't have Jaden Reed. They didn't have Christian Watson. Matthew Golden was still pretty raw. I don't even think Dontavian Wicks played in that game. In fact, I'm almost positive he didn't. So this is a much different team. This is the healthiest they've been all season on offense. Obviously, you wish they had Tucker Kraft here, right? I mean, it's the fact that they're playing so well on offense without him just makes it sting. But I think you can really take advantage of that quick passing game here. And I think that getting the ball out of Jordan's hands is going to be important because, again, this is a really good pass rush. I will say, like I said earlier, the linebackers for the Broncos are good, but they're not speed demons, right? The Packers' speed is a mismatch. Whether it's, getting Matthew Golden out on one of those little quick routes out of the backfield, whether it's the sweeps to Jaden Reed, whatever it is, moving laterally, I just feel like the linebackers and safeties in the Broncos are going to have a hard time. So get the ball out quick before the pass rush gets there, and then get into a rhythm, right? Get into a rhythm early. I think if you can do that effectively, and it takes a while for the run game to get going, I think this could be a big help for them. Just to kind of summarize before we move on to the keys on defense, the offense is going to struggle, guys. I can tell you for a fact they're going to have a lot more possessions this week, which will be interesting, and because the Broncos' offense isn't good. But, and by the way, I guess I'll get on a tangent about that really quick. One of the reasons the Packers have struggled to get over 30 points in some of these games is because the opposing team has had the ball so much. I do think that there's a world in this game where the Packers will outpossess the Broncos, and they could end up getting more points from it. So I'll be interested to see how many more drives they get, but it's going to be bumpy. I'll just say that. And when we bring it all together at the end, we'll talk about it a bit more. But this Packers offense is not going to be cooking on all cylinders this week. We'll just say that. Let's talk about the Broncos offense, starting with their top 5 graded players. Number 1, 90 overall grade, the guard, Quinn Miners, the former UW Whitewater phenom. He's probably the best guard in football. When he came out, he was a second-round pick from the Broncos, I believe, and I wanted the Packers to draft him so bad. If you guys remember, just look up Quinn Miners, UW Whitewater. Look at all the funny looks he's worn over the years. He had like the mullet, the crazy beard. He's just a goofy fella, but he is a fantastic guard. He's the highest graded guard in the league this year, I think. 90 grade. Their second graded player is Garrett Bowles, their left tackle. He has an 89.3 grade. He's a phenomenal player. Number 3, though, drops off significantly. Again, Garrett Bowles was 89. Their number 3 player is Mike McGlinchey, their other tackle, 74. If we're talking about where Micah Parsons should be rushing in this game, in my opinion, you can get away with it on the right side, their right guard and their right tackle. And I do think, I guess it's, the Packers' left side, the Broncos' right side. I think they're going to keep moving Micah around, but I do think they're a bit vulnerable in there. Their number 4 graded player is their wide receiver, Cortland Sutton. He's a 73.8 grade, and then there's Bo Nix, the quarterback, 73 overall. Cortland Sutton is a really good receiver. We'll talk about him in a minute. But as you can tell, the offensive line is just insanely good. This is the best offensive line in the NFL by basically every metric you can find. Rarely do they give up pressures. I think they've given up 16 sacks this whole season, something really low like that. Really good in the run blocking game. Now, I will say, their run blocking looks better when you have a good running back. And since J.K. Dobbins has been out, they haven't been so good. But they have only given up 112 pressures this whole season, which is like a little bit over 8 per game. If the Packers left a game with only 8 pressures, you'd be really disappointed, right? So, and remember, Micah Parsons had 7 last week against the Bears. So it just gives you an idea of just how good this Broncos offensive line is. It's really, really good. Now, again, I'm not going to say that Mike is going to have a great game here, but I think he's going to do really well because I think what they're going to do is they're going to look at their strength of their team, which is their offensive line, and they're going to say, we don't need to double team Micah. We got this. That'd be a bad idea. I hope they take that and they run with it, but you can't block Micah Parsons one-on-one for an extended period of time. The teams who've tried it, it's not worked. Look at the Lions on Thanksgiving, didn't work. The Cardinals back in week 7 or whatever it was, didn't work. The only time the Packers have been able to the only time that they've been able to block Micah is I think the Panthers game, and it's because they ran it so effectively. And this is not a team who can run the ball effectively. So I don't think that that's a wise decision if the Broncos do that. But please, I beg you to block Micah one-on-one. Somebody also needs to win in addition to him. I think somebody else needs to step up in this game. Could it be the other $20 million a year player, Rashawn Gary? You would think. Let's talk about wide receivers really quick. Cortland Sutton is obviously a good player. He's got good size, good speed, good hands. He's a good route runner. but he's not a great receiver. I think that Carrington Valentine and Keyshawn Nixon can handle him, especially again, this is a primarily zone coverage scheme, right? I do think if they are in one-on-ones with Courtland Sutton, they'll be fine. Their other receivers, Troy Franklin, he's a solid player. They have Marvin Mims as well. I like him. But the scariest player on their offense is Evan Ingram, their tight end. He worries me a little bit. The Packers have had trouble with tight ends this season. They've had trouble with tight ends since I've been alive, to be honest. I've said it. Basically, every game that the other team has had a good tight end, it's a problem. Quay Walker, he struggles a bit in coverage, getting depth when he does his back pedal. Edge Cooper's a pretty good coverage player. He's just been a little bit inconsistent this season. I will tell you this right now. Evan Ingram's going to be the biggest mismatch in this game for the Packers. He's just a really good player. At running back, they were dealt a pretty devastating blow to their run game when they lost J.K. Dobbins. He was top 5 in the league when he got hurt. He's also on my fantasy team, which killed my fantasy team. I drafted him like the 16th round or something, like way at the end. And he ended up being like a really good player for me, but I digress. Their main running back is R.J. Harvey. He's a rookie. We talked about him in our draft preview, by the way. I did like him. He's a really athletic fella. He's really, really fast. He can catch the ball at the backfield, but he's struggled a bit with his vision. He struggles to get yards up in the middle. He's not great in the middle of the offensive line, running up the middle. And like we mentioned again in DVOA, he's had some trouble since becoming the starter. I'll just say this. I'm not concerned about the Broncos running game. Let's talk about Bo Nix, their quarterback. I think he's a bit overrated in my opinion. There are a lot of pundits out there that love him. And I think they like him just because of they're the kind of the QB win people. And I'll just go by saying, if anybody listening to this thinks that wins are a QB stat, they're not. You're wrong. No disrespect, but teams win, not one player. So I refuse to ever. The QB wins thing is garbage. It's hogwash. I'll just leave it at that. If you want to debate that, I'm happy to debate you anytime on my DMs. Just kidding. Okay. Again, Bo Nix, he was a rookie last season. I think he was picked 12th overall. He's been solid this year. He was really solid as a rookie. I'm not overly concerned about him. I'll just say that. His arm strength is pretty mid, I would say. He can be a bit erratic and inaccurate at times. He can be a bit reckless with the ball too. He's pretty athletic. He can run outside the pocket a little bit, especially if you give him room to run. He's got, I think, 300 yards rushing this season, 4 TDs. But again, he will throw some to you. He's got 14 turnover-worthy plays. He's only got 22 big-time throws, which is solid, right? But his passing grade is 20th in the NFL, a 71 passing grade. I don't know where he's at in EPA per play total, but here's an interesting stat for you guys. And again, you think about the games they've won this season, it makes a lot of sense. In the first 3 quarters, he's 27th in EPA per play. But in the fourth quarter, he's the 7th rated quarterback. So very similar to Caleb last week, he kind of does his best work in crunch time. So when they're behind in the fourth quarter, they need to come back. Bo Nix does a pretty good job. So again, if you can give him one compliment, it's that. He's pretty clutch. When he's pressured, he's 13th in EPA per play. So he's not in Jordan's caliber by any means, but he's also not bad. The problem is nobody ever gets pressure on the guy because his offensive line's so good. But I'm not super worried about him dicing up the Packers defense. I really would be shocked if they got over 20 points in this game. Whoever gets 20 points in this game is going to win. I'll just say that. I don't think either team is going to. We'll talk about that in the prediction. Let's get into the keys of the game, though. Key number 1, force them to throw the ball. Like I said earlier, they've suffered quite a bit in the run game since losing Dobbins. Despite how good their offensive line is, I'm not super concerned about Bo Nix going out and balling out, as I just said. One of the reasons they've been so close in these games is because, again, some of the other teams, the bad teams, they haven't. I'll just say this: as good as their record is, we talked about all the losses or the close games. One of the reasons those games have been close is because, again, this is a bad offense, and they hold the other teams to a low score. If I'm the Packers, you want Bo Nix to throw the ball 30 times. I'll just leave it at that. Make them one-dimensional. And if you do, I think the Packers defense will perform well in this one. I think Bo Nix and this team's talent isn't going to be able to do these, 17-play, 80-yard drives like we saw last week with the Bears. This Broncos offense is not even close to the talent of the Bears. And the Bears only got 21 points. Last week, the Broncos played the Raiders, okay? And the Raiders' game plan, and they have a far inferior defense to the Packers, by the way. Their game plan was literally just like give Bo all the easy throws, take away the hard ones. And they just couldn't sustain drives long enough at that point to cover up for all that. Another interesting stats, I don't have the stats specifically in front of me, but Bo Nix has been pretty bad against zone coverage. And the Packers play 80% zone coverage on the back end. So, and again, why wouldn't you with the two safeties the Packers have? Really three if you count Javon Bullard. This massively plays into the Packers' favor here. So again, going back to the run game really quick, we talked about it all season. Whenever teams have a more outside running game, the Packers' speed at linebacker makes it really hard for them to win in that situation, right? Look no further than last week when the Packers, on Thanksgiving, guys, when the Packers played the Lions, right? Jahmyr Gibbs, he kills everybody outside the tackles. He couldn't do anything against the Packers, right? So again, the Broncos struggle to run inside. That's where the Packers struggle to stop. So intuitively, the Broncos are going to try to run outside with RJ Harvey. They're not going to be able to do it. So that's a severe mismatch in the Packers' favor on defense. Key number 2 is protect the middle of the field. And I mentioned Evan Ingram earlier in this game. He's the Broncos tight end. That's the biggest weakness for the Packers. They have the worst defense in the NFL in the intermediate part of the field. We've talked about it a little bit in some other episodes, right? And they're 21st in the NFL in defending the middle of the field in EPA per play. Good news is, so that's somewhere you can attack the Packers, but the Broncos almost never attack the middle of the field. They're 30th in the NFL at attacking it in the rate that they attack it. So you have to wonder if maybe they shift their game plan. I mean, if we, the fans, have these stats, the NFL coaches do too. But like I said, if any of you have Evan Ingram on your fantasy team, I think this would be the week to start him. I'll just say that. I'm much less concerned about Cortland Sutton and the receivers than I am about Evan Ingram. Key number 3, watch Bo Nix's legs. Like I mentioned earlier, Bo Nix can run a little bit. He's got 300 yards or so on the season, 4 TDs. He's not great at throwing on the run. So if the Packers do to Bo what they did to Caleb last week, Bo can't even make half of those throws. So I do wonder if maybe they're going to think Bo can do that, and they kind of use the Bears' game plan on the Packers this week. It's not going to go well if they do. In fact, I hope they do. So if I had to put money on it, I think that despite all that, there's a chance that Bo Nix might be the Broncos' leading rusher this week, but you just can't let him extend drives with his legs. It's just that simple. And then key number 4, get some turnovers for Christ's sake. Like I mentioned earlier, Bo Nix has 9 picks this year, 14 turnover-worthy plays. And again, if you guys don't know what turnover-worthy plays are, it's when the defensive back should have had a pick, but they drop it. The quarterback should get penalized for that, and that's what that means. So by those numbers, by that logic, he's throwing you about 1 a game. So in this game, when he throws you one, you got to catch it. It's that simple. The easiest way to beat a really good defense like this is to get into short fields. And I think if the Packers win the turnover battle in this game, they're going to win. It's that simple. I do have a lot of confidence that will happen. I think that Bo's going to make some mistakes in this one. And I think if you catch the picks that are thrown to you, you force a fumble, find a way to get on top of it, right? And I know you guys, I'm probably going to say this in every single key to game every week, right? This is not this is not breaking news here. But in a game like this, especially when you're facing a really good defense like this, you got to steal a possession. Get the ball in plus territory. Get a TD that never should have happened. That's a great way to win a game like this. I think that, the Broncos defense, when the Packers get the ball at the 30 and they're already in field goal range, you force them to get out of their game plan a little bit. That's going to be a massive win for the Packers. So please, for the love of God, get some turnovers this week. Just to kind of summarize, I've been thinking about this all week, guys. I'm recording this on Tuesday. This is a game where it could go either way. It's a complete toss-up. As of right now, the Packers are 2.5-point favorites, I think. That's where it's at, again, Tuesday night. And that's mostly due to how bad this Broncos offense is. It's that simple. And it's also how good the Packers have played the last 3-4 games. I've gone back and forth with my predictions. I might even change it after I upload this on Thursday. I might. I think the Packers have more ways to win than the Broncos do. I think the Packers can neutralize this Broncos offense. I think they can move the ball enough on offense against the Broncos defense. I think they can throw the ball on the Broncos. I really do. I think they can hold up enough in protection. I think there's a chance that they get the running game going a bit. So if the Packers win on offense and defense, that's 2 different ways the Packers can win, theoretically. The Broncos have one way they can win, and that's on defense. It's that simple. Denver is a really, really hard place to play, though, and even years where they've had a poorer team, it's been hard to win there. Think back to 2023. That was a rough game. I was actually at the airport when that game was going on. I didn't even watch it because I was so nervous. they ended up losing. That was Russell Wilson at the helm. They lost to that team. That Broncos team wasn't even good, and the Packers were starting to get a little bit better that season. It was before they went on their run. Some sneaky players to watch for the Packers in this one. I think Jaden Reed could be a massive focal point in this game on offense. I think they're going to try to get him the ball in space a little bit. I think getting him going on those jet sweeps to make their linebackers move side to side, I think that's going to be a really important part of the game. And I do think you can scheme him open enough in man coverage to make some noise. So I would look for him to have a big game in this one. I'm also super interested to see how the Broncos cover the receivers. Which corners play who? If I had to guess, Pat Surtain II is going to face Watson one-on-one. Watson's going to have a speed advantage. Now, Surtain is a really, really good cover corner, but I don't think that it's going to be one-sided here. I think that Watson's going to win a few too. And honestly, as good as he is, I think they're going to trust him to go one-on-one. Surtain's not super healthy. I would try to beat him deep a few times here. I'm starting Christian Watson in my fantasy league this week. I should have started in the last 3 weeks, by the way. My boy Zay Flowers has been a huge letdown, but I digress. The real wild card here, and the one player that I think is going to matter a lot on the Packers offense is Dontavian Wicks. If he plays a full complement of snaps, he's a wild card. I think he can consistently get open against these corners not named Surtain and do what he did to the Lions defense. Now, they won't do it. The Packers probably won't do this, even though they should. They should try to get into some 4 receiver sets with Chris Brooks on the field and pass pro. The more you can stretch this defense out, I believe this strongly, and you get Golden Wicks and Dobbs on their other corners, maybe some safeties, I think you can win that battle. I really do. Now, if the Packers play A football on offense and they score 20-plus points, even right around 20, that's going to be enough to win this game. And if we see the offense play that well, that should leave us all with a really good feeling going forward, even if they were to lose this game. If the Packers score 20 points on this Broncos defense, and let's just say they get like a weird special teams touchdown and they beat us and they get over 22. Okay, I'm hoping that doesn't happen, obviously. If the Packers can move the ball effectively on the Broncos, we all need to be very, very encouraged. That's a moral victory. Even though those don't exist in the NFL, that would be a moral victory. Prediction-wise, this is going to be an ugly, probably frustrating game. Whatever team scores over 23 points, let's just say that, I'll be massively impressed with that team. So going into this game, I implore all of you, and I'm talking to myself here too, have some patience, have some empathy for the offense, which will inevitably struggle a bit at some point. But I think we see the Packers come out with a win in this one. I think we see something like a 16-13 game or maybe 17-13 Packers. I think the Packers win this game. But if they lose, no need to panic. I think they need to lose one more game in the regular season because I just don't see them going, 8-0 that they would need to go to get to the Super Bowl. They're going to have to lose another game at some point. Now, maybe they win this game. They beat the Bears. They beat the Ravens. Then they get the Vikings, and the seeding is already sewed up. I can see that happening, right? And that's where they get their loss. But this game is probably the most okay game to lose of all the 4 that they have left. I don't want them to. I'm not saying that. But if they can play well in this game against a high contender on the road, I'd be really encouraged. Now, weather-wise, it's going to be in the 60s, I think, and sunny. So I have to think the Packers offense, and specifically some of the guys that are, the speedier guys, are corners. Really, everybody is speedy on the Packers. But I have to think the Packers are going to be happy playing in some warmer weather for a change. But we'll see, right? Keeping on that Browns-Bears game this weekend, I wanted to talk about this really quick. I know everybody's picking the Bears comfortably. I think Caleb's really going to struggle against that Browns defense. I really think they're going to have a lot for him to answer. I don't think the Bears can run the ball the way they have against that team. On top of that, I think, the Shedeur Sanders stuff, maybe I'll do a video on this or a podcast on this at some point, my opinion on the Shedeur stuff, but he played really well last week, and I know it was the Titans, but this Titans team, remember, beat the friggin' Broncos who were playing. Don't be surprised, guys, if you see the Browns win that game this weekend. Quinshon Judkins, the Browns running back, he's played well lately. I think they're going to be able to run it on the Bears. I think that game could be really interesting. We'll see. The Lions are not going to catch the Packers at this point. I'd be shocked if they did. So we need to start cheering for the Browns or the Bears to lose every chance that we get. Screw it. I'll predict it right now. I bet the Browns win this week. We hear all week after that, too. The Bears are 0-2 since Ben Johnson took his shirt off. Yes. Just remember this. Hope you guys are listening to this. That's my early prediction. I hope I'm probably wrong, but I hope I'm right. The Lions have the Rams this weekend for the interest in getting the number 1 overall seed, which is, I think it's quite unlikely, to be honest. We need to see the Rams lose another game, and the Seahawks need to lose another game as well. And obviously, the Packers need to win out in that scenario. So there's a world where, we'd want to see the Lions win this week against the Rams. Personally, I'm not one of those people. I don't want to see the Lions again in the playoffs, so I might rather the Rams win this one and we lose a different game. The Lions are pretty close to dead if they lose this game. So that's kind of why I want the Rams to win. The Seahawks play the Colts. I'm really curious about that game. We'll see if we see Phillip Rivers come in. Homie's going to get murdered against that defense. God, I would not want to be Phillip Rivers. And by the way, he looked a little bit out of shape in his press conference. Did look like he had some zip on his balls when he was throwing them in practice, but that Phillip Rivers thing is nutso. So I do think the Seahawks are going to win that one comfortably. I did get a question. I figured this is probably a good time to answer it from my buddy Jace. Shout out Jace. I figured I'd answer it on here quick. He asked me, who would you want to face in the playoffs? To me, and actually Andy Herman said the same thing, so I promise I'm not stealing this from him, but I completely agree with this. I'm nervous about facing the Lions or the Bears. If the Packers were to beat the Bears in Chicago, which I think they will, by the way, beating a team 3 times in a single season is really, really hard to do. And that same with the Lions. That scares me too. If I'm the Packers, I want the 49ers in the first round. I think the Packers will want to face them too. They need to exercise those playoff demons on their way through the NFC, through a tough NFC. I want them to play the 49ers. The Packers are a brutal matchup for the Niners. The Niners don't have Nick Bosa. Their defense is held together by string right now. Offensively, I think they can stop Christian McCaffrey. I'm not scared of any of their other receivers, candidly. I think if the Packers get the 49ers in the playoffs, we should all be rooting for that. I think the Packers will win that handily. And then we talk about the Rams and the Seahawks. I'm not overly scared of them either, honestly. I think the Packers pass rush can make Matt Stafford uncomfortable, to say the least. I think they can score on that defense. And the Seahawks, right, I don't think that Sam Darnold can avoid turning the ball over against a good pass rush. I will say, if that game is in Seattle, that's quite scary. But keep in mind, if the Packers play in Los Angeles, that's basically a pseudo home game for them. I mean, if you guys haven't noticed in other Rams games, whenever the Packers play in LA, it's like all Packer fans in there. Because again, the LA Rams only have been in LA for like 5 years, 6 years, whatever it is. I guess it's since 2018. So what is that? 8 years, whatever. You get the point. So that I'm not super concerned about that either. And I certainly would not be afraid of the Eagles. My God, I'm surprised they're even going to make it. There's a chance the Eagles don't make the playoffs, guys. I think they will, but I think the Cowboys are better than them right now. I really do. So again, if you're the Packers, shit, I'd love to play the Eagles. I mean, you should have won that game in Green Bay. I think that was before the offense caught some stride there. If the Packers play the Eagles again, they will win. So I would love to play let's just say the 49ers in the first week. Then you get the Eagles, and then you get, let's just say, the Rams. That'd be a lot of fun. I just don't want to play the Lions or the Bears. And again, if the Bears beat us in Chicago and the grudge match is in the playoffs, I think that's fine. But that's just a really tough thing to do, to beat a team 3 times. So anyway, hope that answers the question, Jace. Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys listening to the podcast. I'm battling a little bit of illness, so I felt a little bit flighty on my end over here. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. I will be back on Monday, hopefully, to recap the Broncos game. Again, I think it's going to be Packers 17, Broncos 13. Should be a really fun game for us. Let's not get too frustrated either way. And again, I'm talking to myself here. So I'll see you guys next week. Go Pack, go.